Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of Fear the Walking Dead. A great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, I really liked how they designed this season finale, because I wasn't even sure where this was going to go, and it took some very interesting directions. Let's kind of break it down storyline by storyline. Well, first and foremost, there's the whole situation where we began with that lady and the baby. I did not realize that was Rachel until I was like, oh my god. Which to me, that makes this whole thing that much, not ironic, but it all coming full circle in more ways than one. But obviously it's like, no, Morgan's sending out his message, basically make your ending what you want it to be. It may not be the ending we wanted, but it's the ending we can get, and you can kind of choose how everything's going to end, because Morgan's like, I'm going to do everything to try and stop it, but the moment that missile comes back down and those warheads release, there's not much any of us can do, so just enjoy whatever time you have left. And Rachel's trying to protect her baby. She's trying to get the vehicle started, but one of her legs get crushed, and it was gnarly. I was like, where are we going with this? And she's walking, and ultimately she has to stop, because for her it's like she wanted to try to do what was best for her baby, but it's like, I can't keep going, but that doesn't mean you can't. So the moment she's tying Rufus to the rope to Rufus, what is she playing? I was like, damn. And she's putting she's covering her mouth so she doesn't bite it or anyone or her baby. So she's up stabbing herself. She's planning to become a walker. I was wondering if she was going to try and get Rufus to drag her or something, but it's no. Most likely it's no. What it ended up being is Rufus would make noise, and her as a walker would want to follow him. So it's sad way to start this all. But then I believe the next stop we took was with Daniel and them. Daniel heard a message, but it's but we don't know, because Daniel, as we've learned this season, isn't completely right in the head, so they don't know whether to really believe him about the coordinates and all, because even he kind of doubts himself, so he's I don't know. So Brody comes back with Riley, and it's yeah, he told us where the bunker is, so we're going to go there. But the entire time, even Daniel being why tell us now? You're all about us dying and everything, you want to die for the cause and everything, so why now? And it's it's not making any sense. And then Brody runs over some walkers, but then they have to get out and fix it. Obviously, you have the rabbi talking to Sarah, being you'll meet up with Wendell, and she's if we don't find the bunker, she's worried and everything. It's because he's I know what you're thinking. You're not going to find your brother again, but you will. It's one way or another, kind of saying whether we find the bunker or whether we all die, at the very least, you will find Wendell again. It's going to be okay, So. Saying that even in death, at least you'll be reunited in some shape or form. But alright, to get the vehicle pieced up, Riley makes some reference to a phoenix, and then all of a sudden Brody's alright, let's get out of here. Oh, we're rising like a phoenix. Daniel gets Luciana's gun, pops him in the head. I was at first I was nervous. I was now, did you actually get that right or what? But it's no, he was with them, and then Charlie ended up shooting Riley as he was trying to run away. I'm sure he was trying to get the gun or whatever, but it turns out Brody was with them. I was what? That's crazy. He's yeah, we're just going to lead you somewhere so we could basically watch the world end. It was never meant to be oh, you find a safe haven or not. Which, that kind of comes, it's kind of sad in the end, because remember where we met Brody first, kicking it with Logan, and Dwight gave him a second chance, and he eventually met up with Sherry and the others, and they did the whole thing about trying to stop Dakota. So it's kind of sad for his story to come back. I guess you can almost make the argument. There's this part of my brain that's well, I guess you can make the argument his loyalty's not always, he's always quick to change sides. I guess that maybe that's the sad aspect of that. I don't know. Because the thing is, it's Riley brings up, he was, the way you guys turned against each other behind the wall, the fact is, it made him lose faith in you, so that's why he came to us. He's ironically, old man, it's because of you. It's alright, because Daniel, that was the episode we found out, Daniel's not all there, and he kind of calls all of that, and so, ironically, he's the reason why Brody ended up joining him. But it's still kind of sad, because this was his second chance given by Dwight, and it's kind of sad to see it kind of end it this way, But obviously it's they have nowhere else to go, because it was all BS, so they have no choice but to follow coordinates. But Luciana's at the very least, I have faith in Daniel, so if this is where we're supposed to go, this is where we're supposed to go. So next was Dwight and Sherry's story, which Sherry just wants to spend time. It's like, let's get some pretzels and beer. Like, we're trying to find somewhere to like hide, but it's like, there's no time. And for her, she just wants to spend that time with Dwight because it's like, this is what we wanted. But she's like, I wasted so much time we had because I couldn't let go of the past. We've been together for a while. We found each other. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, obviously, except for the rare occasions in this world where it does, but they're super rare. Obviously, it seems like a lot because of, the 3 different shows. But the fact is, it's not. It's not that common, like people being reunited, like finding their way to each other. Unless you're an important main character, it's kind of it's that character plot armor they always talk about to a certain extent. But all jokes aside, it is just kind of like we were the lucky ones that found each other. But for her, it's like I was spent so much time trying to beat the bad guy. I was so angry and couldn't let go of the past. I wasted so much time we had together. But for Dwight, it's like no matter how much time we have this together. We're here right now. But it turns out the house they're staying at isn't empty. Like a family's there, and it's like, oh, some people run. And I was like, was it their group that did? It's like, oh no, it's the cult people, which I think is ironic because that was the whole point too. Because Dwight and them were like, oh, you're supposed to be all about dying, but at the end, now that it's come true, you're scared. You actually hid away, which actually plays a deeper role than you think it did. Once again, it's like, there's so many layers to that. Like, the fact is that there were people of Teddy's who are all about this cult life until it came to the end where it's like, no, I don't want to die. You literally stole a bunker from a family just because you didn't want to die. That's so interesting. And so, but instead of killing him, Dwight was like, no. Killed the walker that was, I was like, are you going to let the walker kill? I was like, no, I want you to be alive when this all goes down. It's like, I want you to see the world you made. Like, you don't you're trying to like hide away. This is what you wanted, right? You got what was it? I think Sherry said it. It's the title card for this section of the episode was like, get a front view or something, asshole. And she shoots his other leg. And so it's like, and even Sherry being like, I ain't seen that side of you in a while, Dwight. And for him, it's like, you were right about us, stopping the bad guys. It's kind of what we should have been doing the entire time. So I think that sets up potentially their future of like, right, when they're like, we're going to the righteous, like almost like a righteous path of like, right, we're not going to let the bad guys run amok anymore. Like we've let bad people do their thing too long because of Negan. We were in the situation we were in. So many people were. We're not going to let the bad guys just do whatever they want to anymore. So I think that's setting up their story in the future. So they hunkered down with that family. I believe next was Strand, if I'm not mistaken. Which, that's interesting. It's like he's all alone. He's at the hospital. Well, I think it was a hospital, that building or whatever. And makes his way past all those walkers. And I don't know whether those... Because that never got answered whether those people downstairs just died or whether home dude... Well, we later on find out his name is Howard. Not unless Howard had something to do with that. Side note, like that, I was like, because I'm unfamiliar with the actor's name, but the thing I'm best known for is Salim from American Gods. I've seen him in a multitude of things, but obviously, like, American Gods is the first thing that comes to my mind. I mean, especially considering season 3 was this year, so it's super fresh in my mind. Which also caught me off guard. Like, does he have like an American accent? I guess in my head because I cannot, now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm like, because of the recency thing, like, I can only think of him as Salim, and I'm like, I just assumed, I was like, oh, I guess I never thought about it. I just assumed that was his accent, so I don't know if he, like, did an accent for Salim, and that's just, like, he has a very, like, thick American accent, or was it, I'm assuming that's probably him just doing an American accent for this, but because I thought about it, I was like, I'm trying to think about the other stuff I've seen him in, but I picture it, but I can't remember what it was, but I'm like, I'm trying to remember whether he's had an accent in other stuff I've seen him in. Whatever the case may be, it's just it kind of like made me start tripping a little bit. But obviously it's like, Strand, it's like, yeah, this is kind of the end, so there's nothing anyone can do about it. So Howard's like, all right. So it turns out he's a historian and everything, and so he's been gathering all this history because for him it's like, when this is all said and done, like, and at the end of this world, like, I guess just in case anything comes back, or even if it's just the world stays in this state, we've got to remember where we came from. We've got to remember the history of this world. So it's interesting that the person he would meet would be, considering, and this plays out even more, but obviously Strand being the con artist that he is, it is ironic that he would meet a historian collecting history and alcohol, in particular bourbon. and he tells a story about like, you know, it's like, who you are, how did you get here? And it was like, yeah, there were two people, one who wasn't willing to die, and Howard's like, who are you? And he was like, I was the one that was willing to die. I was like, oh, Strand. Even at the end, literally it's going to be the end of the world, and you still have to lie, you lying piece of shit. I love it. I mean, once again, I said it. You're a con man. This is who you were at the beginning. This is who you are at the end. I mean, to be fair, even before the world ended, you were already a con man. But for oh my God, I was like, you lying sack of shit. And lo and behold, what is he saying? Oh, Morgan Jones. I was like, oh, you suck so much, and I love it. Oh, double down, dude. And hell, like I think you can make the argument that your boy not only tripled down, he quadrupled down this episode. It's great. We'll get to that later. But I think that's ironic because he spent so much time trying to be a better person over the course of the series, but he's always like falling back into like who he was. But the fact is, at the end, I think that speaks volumes that you use the name Morgan Jones, because there's a part of you that wants to be a better person, and you're like, Morgan's a better person than me. He's a more righteous person, so I'm going to pretend to be him at the end. So that was incredible, you know, because, you know, he's like, yeah, this is the ending I thought I deserved, but I guess not. And he's drinking the bourbon and everything, so I was like, okay. That's amazing. Because it's like, oh yeah, why are you here? Why aren't you with the rest of your people? He's like, I thought this was something led me here. It's like, oh yeah, self-preservation, you piece of crap. Oh, I love it. Victor's the type of character you love to hate. It's just like, oh, you suck so much, and I love it. I love how slimy you can be. It's frustrating at times, but at this moment in the episode, like I was frustrated last episode with you, but I'm also like, I actually kind of love it this episode. Like I said, I have a love-hate relationship with Victor Strand. I'm curious how most fans of the show feel about Victor. Like, there are people who are like, oh, I hate Victor's guts. And there are people like, yeah, you're a slime ball. Every world needs a slime ball. Regardless. So, after that, I believe it was Dakota and Teddy, which that was really interesting. Circumstances, because it's like, it's like at the end of the day, it's like, right, we're just going to kind of basically watch the world end, and Dakota's like, she's happy she found Teddy, because it's like she found someone that can understand her, because also Teddy likes her too, because like, right, I found someone, like all the other people, they follow me, but no one understands me like you do, Sue. And it's like, they found each other, they're kind of happy at the very end. It's like, and then, lo and behold, who shows up? John Doerr's like, oh, you here for revenge or something? But he's like, nah, I'm not going to hurt you or anything. I just want you to listen. She's like, you want to try and chase me like your son did. And it's like, but my son was right. It's like, his life meant something. Yours means something. That he's like, the fact is that you gotta believe that people are better than you think they are. If you give them a chance, they can be better. Don't judge them just for who they were at their worst. That people can be good. Don't just kind of be a pessimist and assume the worst in people. So John's like, he's like, I forgive you for killing John. I forgive you for killing my son. And it's like, Teddy's like, oh, don't listen to him. You have nothing to be sorry about. But then Dakota's like, you do? Because I think regardless of all she says, like she does, like, because I think, like, you accept the fact is I did that. You're not... Because for her, that was the thing of, like, she was tired of so many people looking at her like something was wrong with her. That's why she latched on to Teddy. It's like, well, you see me for who I am, and, like, you don't judge me for it. But to hear that, I think there's some part of her that wanted that forgiveness. But Teddy was about to pull out his gun, but June, like, shoots it out of his hand. It's like, yeah, she's a better shot than me. It's like, she learned from John. It's like, but still, it hurts. It's a complicated thing, forgiveness, because once again, this is, I draw the parallels between Dakota and Charlie. Like, it took a long time for Alicia to kind of forgive, but then even June being like, I forgive you too. And it's like, if that's the case, then why'd you kill my mom? And it's like, because after I lost John, I lost everything. I thought I lost everything that he taught me, but I found my way back to it. So I'm not, it's like, I can change. So I forgive you. Like, it's not too late all around. But then your boy John stumbles across something. He's like, oh, what's this? And opens up a latch. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I was like, whoa, that was a beautiful twist because it's like, oh, what the hell is this, Teddy? Y'all up here talking about the end and everything, but it looks like you had yourself an escape hatch. And even Dakota being like, wait, what? What's going on here? You're all about the end and everything, but you had an escape plan. I was like, that's interesting. At least, which I think is ironic considering he had that whole plan. That whole thing he said about, like, to Dakota last episode about, like, oh, how you can get people to follow you is, like, and get people convinced to die is if you're willing to do it with them. And it's like, Morgan is willing to die to make sure no one does die, but you were like, oh, I'm willing to die and drag other people with me. But ironically, you're like, oh, you're willing to let people die for you, but you're not actually going to die yourself. And I'm like, he's making it seem like his plan was like, no, I'm a pop back afterwards because John points it out. It's like, oh, no. He's keeping you around because he needs someone to turn the key because you need to do it simultaneously, so he can't do it on his own. So that's why you're in. Teddy's like, no, that's not the case. I was like, whoa. So that's what this is all about. Dakota was just going to be another person he was going to use. And I guess at the end of it, he was going to kill her. Because that's the thing. Like, he spewed all this BS about how Alicia, the world's going to need someone like her. But it's like, apparently you're going to be alive in this world. It's like, oh, because John was like, oh, I guess this isn't going to be your end. This isn't just the end for you. I guess you're trying to be there for the beginning as well. Even though you said the world shouldn't. So the fact is, this bunker and everything was here. Like, if that's really the case, why not tell Dakota ahead of time? Why keep it a secret? Because part of me is like, the fact is he didn't tell her means... First I was thinking like, oh, like, it's like, right, he probably wasn't planning on coming here with anyone, because notice Riley he just sent Riley off on his own, but he made sure to take Dakota, because he knew, like, Riley was so into this, that there's no way Riley would have been okay with this. It's like, it would have pissed him off, but he thought he could probably, sweet talk Dakota enough, but he kind of got found out before he could really break... I think it wouldn't have sat well with Dakota, but, maybe if they hadn't met with John in June, like, maybe he would have been able to use that silver tongue of his to kind of convince her. I don't know. You never know how things are going to play out. We only know the way they ultimately did play out. But I found that so fascinating. It's like, so you were going to come here afterwards, probably regardless of how many missiles fire, and you were going to save yourself. Like, yeah, let all these other suckers die, but I'm going to be there to see the new world. It's like, oh, so you don't believe your own BS, or you do, but you want to be there to kind of cultivate a new group. I wonder what kind of BS he would have spewed if he had survived and, like, was there at the new beginning and everything. I was like, that's so fascinating in the long run. I think that's so incredible. So we end things off there. And then we catch up with Morgan and Grace. And then Grace saying that line of like, did you know it was going to end this way? Is that why you're not here talking to Athena? And hearing Morgan's message, she goes down because like she knows how she wants this to end. So she grabs the gun and she goes to Morgan. And it's like, even at the end, she's able to confess her feelings, which even Morgan's like, yeah, we're both the same way, that it has to be the end of everything. It has to be, things are super bad for us to finally confess our feelings to each other, because for Grace, it's like, my daughter is the reason why I survived, but I've seen what it's like. Even if we don't die from the initial explosion, the fact is, the radiation is eventually going to kill us. So, and she's like, I already watched it happen to Athena's dad. I'm not going to let that happen to us, I don't want to see us like that. And for Morgan, it's like, the frustrating thing is, it's kind of that thing of like, so much time was wasted. And, once again, to the very end, we have to, a little bit like Sherry and Dwight's situation. But it's like, for him, it's like, he thought like, oh, like, what kept him alive was the fact is that he's like finding his way back to Grace. It's like, I could have been, I thought I could be a husband again, a father again, but the world kind of took that from him. And it's like, yeah, you can be. We can be, but just not in this world, because obviously it's like we can be on the other side, I guess, with like, probably like, I think she was specifically referencing Athena, but maybe she could have also been like, yeah, you can be with like your son again as well. So they were going to meet their end, and then they hear the baby crying, and then I immediately was like, what is that? And then I was like, right, I was like, the baby, I forgot about it. It comes full circle like that in more ways than one, but the moment they hear it, it's like, oh my god. I was like, oh. So now they stop themselves from killing themselves, and then they find, and then like Morgan's like, Rachel, and one that he said Rachel, like I brought up at the beginning, I didn't remember it was her until he said that in the episode. I was like, oh my god, Rachel, because we don't see her that much. We've seen her like a handful of times since like the beginning of the season. So I didn't think about it. I was like, oh my God, that's Rachel, of course. And that's what I mean. It came full circle in so many regards. Morgan was there at the beginning, Rachel's husband sacrificed himself to make sure her and the baby survived. And Morgan's been taking care of them, looking after them, and built this whole community and everything. And for it to be a situation where we are right now, I think that's so fascinating because it's, he helped build this thing. He kept her alive, and like the baby ended up finding its way to them. Both of them, when they were at their lowest, kind of losing hope, And even Morgan saying like he thinks this was a sign from Athena. It's like, right, there's a baby in their arms now, and it's like, but you had this look on Grace's face like she's annoyed because it's like I think there's going to be an aspect of it's like I'm not going to replace Athena with this little girl, like or this child. So I'm it's not gonna happen. So she looked more annoyed, like it's like well, you're trying to fill this void. It's like no, especially because they'd already like what's the word I'm looking for? Signed their death warrants. They already like this is going to be our end, and they had closure on that. And for that to be abruptly ended, like I don't think that's going to 100% well sit with Grace. I don't know, especially knowing what the aftermath has for them. And that's when we start getting into the aftermath of every story, and it's so great. Let's work our way backwards. Let's do the whole. Let's do Daniel and them, which is so interesting. Like they find their way, and it's like, oh, there's nothing here. Daniel's think he's like failed them all, but and Riley's laughing, but it's like not. But he ends up dying from his wound before like Daniel could kill him. I kind of wanted Daniel, but it's like he's already dead. And lo and behold, a helicopter rolls up. I'm like, oh, that can only be one group of people. And lo and behold, it's the Republic helicopter. I was like, that's interesting. That's good. Yet kind of yikes, because once again, we don't know all there is. We've seen how the Republic works because we've seen at least a little. Once again, that group at the end of The Walking Dead, we don't know, but at least we've got a better picture of them because of The Walking Dead World Beyond. Like, once again, I don't know what the timeline is for this show. Like, maybe it's publicly out there. I don't read up on shows and stuff like that, so I actually don't know if this is currently caught up with The Walking Dead. And because I even feel like, I mean, maybe I'm mistaken. I feel like even World Beyond isn't caught up with The Walking Dead timeline-wise. I could be mistaken. Maybe like next season is when like everything fully converges. I don't know. Because like I said, I don't know how because there's a lot of time skips that's happened. But it's like at least we know The Walking Dead is at least set in 2022, maybe 2021, 2022, because with the Negan storyline, they were telling us like that was with him and his wife. That was 12 years ago, but that was that was like a little bit after the world had sometime after the world had already ended when everything's kind of went to shit. So, and it's only supposed to be 10 years ago when the sky fell in World Beyond. So that's why I'm like, I don't think the timelines are like completely synced. Once again, that information is probably out there, but I'm unaware. But it's interesting, and it's like Al is on the radio. It's like, yeah, don't ask the pilot question. I was like, yo, Al! She was able to convince her quote-unquote beer lady, which that's interesting, too, because we haven't seen Al in a couple episodes, and it's like interesting. I guess in the future, we're going to get an episode explaining like what Al's been up to, because the last time we saw Al was at the end of the episode when they went to Teddy's bunker. Like, that was like it was her, Luciana, Wes, and Alicia. That was the last time we saw Al. So, and then she went off to, she told Dwight, I'm gonna go off to find my beer lady thing, so that whole situation. But it's like that, because Daniel had said like, oh, the voice was familiar, he just wasn't sure, and it's like, yeah, it was Al. So she set this all in motion, which at the end of it all, Daniel's telling Luciana, is like, thank you for trusting me. She's like, yeah, I have, as long as we have faith in each other, as long as we sit together, like, everything's going to be okay. So they're taking off, but you're like, oh, they're safe. But at the same time, you're like, yeah, but the Republic, though, yeah, that's going to be a complicated situation. Especially because it's like, oh, she's going to get in trouble for that. Not unless Al got accepted, And then it was, I don't know. Once again, we'll have to see outside of things to find out, like, what exactly went down to kind of make it so that, oh, not only was Al accepted, but other people as well. Not less this is a situation where it's like, this is off the book, off the records, that even, like, the Republic doesn't know this is all happening. So, but I did like that Wes left a message, you know, saying this isn't the end. And he put the end on Riley. Ironically, it's like, yeah, all this about the end and stuff like that, and you're not there to see it, and neither is your boy Teddy, because at the end, they like Dakota's still kind of confused in everything, wondering like whether they were telling the truth or not. It's like, did you care about me or anything, like, and kind of finding out at the end, like, oh, like what they were saying was true, like Teddy's the manipulative lying sack of crap that he is. So June and John go under, and it's like June was saying like, you'll die if you stay here, but for her it's like, I have to see the end, you know. And so they both go into the bunker, and Dakota stays, because I think for her, like, it's like, you know, it's like, did you ever care about me? Where you manipulate me? He's like, oh, Sue, and she shoots him because she's like, I thought as much. Even at the end, I'm not going to change, but you won't get to see the end. And so she just stands there, because I think for her, it's like, I think it's maybe on some level, because she knows if I stay alive, even if I stay with them, I'm just going to end up, having to pretend to be something I'm not. They'll never fully accept me. And because I think also the sad thing is, at the end, she thought she found someone that accepted her for her, and it's like, no, it was BS. Like, at the end, she had no one. I guess maybe having John and June's forgiveness didn't, you know, mean something, I guess, you know. I don't know. It's just kind of sad that things ended that way. And I was like, oh, well, maybe she'll survive. Oh, no, we see her skeleton, like, as it's, like, reduced to, like, burning ash because of the explosion. Oh, then we get to my favorite bit. Your boy Strand is like, oh, I'm alive. And he starts laughing, and he's like, ha, 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 ha. I survived. I never, you know, despite all I've done, I've survived. And Howard's like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, let me tell you the truth. I'm not the guy, and I'm the other guy in your story. I'm not Morgan Jones. I'm Victor Strands. I almost wanted him to be like, I'm Victor motherfucking Strand. I was like, yes, that's the messed up thing. No matter how much of, let's face it, I said it before and I'll say it again, no matter how much of a piece of shit Victor has been, he's still standing. He's been the most conflicting, like, back and forth character, and somehow, some way, he's survived all of this. Nothing, and for him, it's like, that's who I am. I'm a survivor. I'm a cheat. I'm a screw over whoever I can. And despite all that, karma has, you know, it's like, it's kind of sad. Like, the quote unquote bad guy, I guess, kind of wins. At the very least, the flip floppy, self-centered bastard, long live Victor Strand, apparently. So for him, it's like, yeah. And it's kind of like a new world. Which I think is so interesting, because what was Dakota's message last episode to him, being like, yeah, the world doesn't need assholes like you anymore. And lo and behold, well, he's still alive because Morgan saved him. But also it's like, okay, so he's going to be doing his own thing. It's like, you know, Morgan was trying to build a community, and it's like, I guess he's going to do it too. He's like, yeah, one built of, you know, art and history and bourbon. And it's like, okay. And then he's like, so what do you say about it? Howard doesn't say anything, but I'm like, that's interesting. Once again, we don't know Howard's story, but I do appreciate it, because that means we're going to get more of him in the future. So, especially with, obviously, this year we got the news that, you know, American Gods got canceled, sadly. So, plus that show, like, this probably would have given him the opportunity to do this anyway, because, like, American Gods comes out, like, probably even aside from, like, 2020, it would have probably come out this year anyway, because that show comes out every 2 years anyway. Regardless, tangents and all that aside, but it's like, man, you survived and you're happy about it. And I'm curious, like, is this going to cement, like, Victor being the way he is now? It's like, no, I'm going to be this way. I'm going to stay this way. There's no changing me. Because for him, it's like, I've always been there, like, you know, come back and forth of, like, kind of like, rebuilding something, making a place, it all crumbles, he finds another place, rebuild it over and over again. And it's like, I guess for him, maybe this cements, like, you know what, bump that. Maybe that's what Dakota's meaning was. You know, John was saying, like, yeah, there's, you know, got to make it mean something. Maybe that's what Dakota's life meant. Because I didn't watch it, but the actress who plays Dakota, Zoe, her and Coleman Domingo, who plays Strand, were on Talking Dead. I think they might be. That could be an interest. Once again, I didn't watch it, but that could be what that is. That's going to be signifying. She gave meaning to his life by being like, yeah, you don't want to be what they want you to be, right? You just want to be yourself. And Strand kind of admitted that last episode. So it's like, oh, I'm gonna be me all the way. I'm gonna scum it up. Long live the scumbag Victor Strand. I think we're gonna see Victor's story become that. I think that's so fascinating because I was like, oh, Dakota, like, your life's supposed to mean something. I was like, what is that? But it's like, of course, making Victor decide to double, like I said, not even triple down, quadruple down on being a scumbag. I love it. I love it. Once again, I'm gonna hate it in the future, but for this episode, I'm enjoying that scumminess. It's so good. I'm sorry, I'm getting too giddy about it. It's just like, I just love the rich get richer, the scummy somehow survive. It's just funny how the world. This is still a world where Negan is alive after everything he did. You know, ironically enough, he's the only bad guy that survived The Walking Dead. Interestingly enough, the governor dead, Alpha dead, Beta dead. It's interesting how that all works out. Like, you just happen to be the only bad guy who's still alive, playing the role of an anti-hero. Interestingly enough, live long enough to become an anti-hero. I guess in his case, it's maybe just a full-blown hero, whatever the case may be. So that's interesting. We did get a peek with Alicia. We didn't get to see her, but we did see, like, the room she's hidden in, and it's like, right, the tunnel's collapsing because no one knows where she is. The only person who knew where she was Teddy. We see that June and John Sr. are okay, which I'm also glad because it's like we might not have John Jr. anymore, but we got John Sr. And it's like knowing that Teddy's going to probably, he probably has to find a new purpose and everything now too. Probably going to be like, June's only family he's got left now. So making sure she's okay, finding a way forward in this world and everything. So there's that. Morgan, Rufus the dog, as well as Emma all hid. And luckily when everything passed, they came out and they're okay. But, like, Grace has still kind of got that look of, like, right, I told you how I wanted things to end, and they didn't end that way, and here we are, So I think that's definitely going to be an interesting thing. I meant to bring this up earlier, too, but I think that's also another angle to it. Like, Dakota saved him for a reason. Yes, it was to kill her sister. I guess that's another meaning that to, like, Dakota's life. It's like, yeah, you set that up, but in the end, like, lo and behold, we're all... things worked out where it's like Dakota kept him alive, and now it's like he's here to take care of Rachel's baby and be with Emma. Like, they have a second chance now in more ways than one. So whether Rachel, like I said, whether she'll I was gonna call her Emma, Grace will be happy about that, we'll see. But didn't seem too happy, especially because, like, right, the radiation, because that was one warhead that fell. I think we see another one kind of falling in the distance. So that's, like I said, that's also the thing of, like, why I'm not sure what the timeline is for this, whether this is caught up with The Walking Dead's continuity or not. Because I'm like, is that just stretching across Texas, or is this hitting other states? I guess we won't know until the future what the aftermath of that will be. Because I don't think that was ever referenced in, like, The Walking Dead or anything like that. Because did we ever find out why that satellite came crashing down? I wonder, is there some correlation, like that satellite back in season 10? Not season... No, that was earlier season... Yeah, that was earlier in season 10, like... I don't know if we ever found out why that satellite came crashing down. Was it just like, oh, it just came crashing down, or what? Maybe there's some correlation between this and that. Maybe not. I don't know. Because... Like I said, this has to be set in the same time frame. It might just be a Texas and nearby state thing. Maybe it's not enough to, like... everyone in Virginia to know about what's what, or once again, I believe World Beyond's a little behind continuity wise, but like I said, the information is probably out there saying, like, no, the continuities are all lined up, but like I said, so I could be mistaken. Regardless, Fear the Walking Dead has been renewed for a 7th season. I'm so excited to see where things take us going forward in the aftermath. Like, is season 7 going to pick up immediately after this? Because you also have to think about it too, like, because I think it was saying in the previews, like, The Walking Dead is returning for the final season in August, at least part 1. So whatever goes down in The Walking Dead is going to have potential major implications for Fear. Maybe not. I mean, once again, they're states away, but I don't know. Once again, like what implications this has for The Walking Dead and World Beyond, especially with the whole angle of the Republic and everything, because we know. Because I also still have to think about the movies too, because like the Republic are the people that took Rick. I believe so. I don't think it's this group that they're with right now. Once again, I mean the group that like Eugene and them were taken by at the end of season 10. Not unless, once again, whether they're the Republic or not, don't seem like they are, but maybe they are. Whatever the case may be. Morgan's alive for a reason, and maybe this is going to be a continued thing of this is why you're alive. Like, that is a good thing you and Grace didn't kill yourself. Once again, we'll have to wait to see how all these storylines end up shaking out next season. I'm so excited to see what happens. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.